Welcome to Warblog. I am working through my backlog of games that I've had for quite a while now. It's actually been quite a pressure that's now sort of relieving itself because there's only 2 left. So I've just done this Wa al Shaaf, Northern al Jawf, Yemen. This was a nice easy one. I've also fixed the little exchange error that I picked up on the last one. To be quite honest, I don't know how that error got there. But what I do think is that, well, suffice to say, excluding external malicious modification of my code, I can't understand how the bit of code that was there got into where it was, because it was quite specific and had a very specific intent. It shouldn't have been where it was. But anyway, I sorted it. It wasn't sort of like an error. It was just sort of an addition of something. And no reason for being there. Anyway, so what we got, essentially, they're not actually taking anything. It's moving forward. So obviously, I've done their front line like that, but I don't really know where the front line starts. It just would sort of make sense. And then it finishes like this, I would say. It's all sort of before the road. So more like that. They don't quite have the road. So that's that. I put this one here to make it up, to make a front line, because otherwise, because what I did initially was to put blue. I don't like these colours. I'll have to get some new ones. I'll put these ones in here first, because that's a sort of a good defendable position. This all makes sense. This makes sense. That makes sense. But without that unit there, these units can just go on sort of around here. And so I put that there. I'm sort of not so keen on it. It's really supposed to take it. So what I'm guessing is if we put enough pressure this way, that these units will fall back as this ground is lost. But it's quite a nice sort of defendable hill line. I don't know what it's really like there, but I didn't do this sort of deliberately like that. It's just trying to follow the map as best as possible. But when I start looking at it, it's sort of like, well, that's quite a defendable feature because it's all connected, it's all in line. So that's that really. So the way to progress, well, I don't know really. I haven't thought of the balance yet. I wanted to keep it small, keep the numbers small, so it was more sort of strategy and sort of an inevitable fallback of forces. So initially I just had these sort of one there, one there, one there. It wasn't until I put these extra units here and here, and then a couple more here, that I thought, well, I better double up on these, just so that the numbers overall balance. There's also this, which I put in there originally, but we've got the anti-tank and some short-range artillery, which is sort of more the mortars. So you've got there the anti-tank stuff, which they're sort of well known for using in the videos on YouTube, taking out positions on top of hills. So essentially, what I'm envisaging really is these sort of moving forward and then these taking these out and then them falling back. So essentially, I imagine that these should all fall back. But I'm also putting some motorised and some mechanised, because quite often you see that there are some motorised and mechanised vehicles about, but quite often they're sort of more integrated with the actual unit. So this unit might have a couple of pickups with it, which are sort of motorised elements, but really it's just part of what they've got, and occasionally they'll have the armoured fighting vehicle, which isn't really a tank, not even mechanised. It might just be armoured vehicles, light armour, definitely light armour, but more than a truck, more than a pickup, like the Humvees, with a sort of like, a big cannon on top, 50 cal, 50 millimeter cannon, not anything bigger, 20mm or something. They're not tanks, but they quite often see sort of Houthi videos of the Houthis chanting and burning those out as well. So I put them there, but it's sort of, I put them in there just to include them because you can see them, but whether or not they'd be concentrated in companies like that, you could probably bring these around and carry out a significant offensive. But these are 2-2, so I envisage these being used somewhere along this road line and then to jump in and support. But I don't envisage them really actually winning. But I don't know whether they'll win, so maybe make some moves. So there's 3 units, 3 front line units, this, and this. So what I might imagine is that somehow they just push forward. So you could maybe have them, I think, so I don't like doing it what I call schoolboy wargaming, where you just move towards the nearest unit, but maybe that was what this one should do. And this one could go over to this one, or to this one, or to combine that as one operation, whereas this guy could go up against this guy, or up against this guy, or combining that as an operation with these units supporting wherever required. Alternatively, you could sort of say, well, we want to apply one unit here, but we're going to actually got to face this unit off with something. So we can have one unit going that way, one going this way, we could have one going this way, one going that way, one going this way, and one going this way, leaving this to sort of move in against that and provide support across the whole area. So that would leave one irregular unit in there to support any one of these areas with the artillery and the anti-tank. I'm more inclined to do it that way, so let's maybe do that. So this unit is heading for that. There's that. That's interesting because he can combine on that, but he's heading for that. So that's the front disposition based on that strategy. So these guys can support in some regards. So where might we need extra oomph? I think it's going to be in the centre, so we'll just follow him straight through. I'm not going to be in range of anything this turn unless we can fly. We've got 2 range, so if we can move there and fire, that would be 1, 2, so he's not going to be in range. Let's keep it central. How much more movement has he got? None. So it's going to be slow moving. And the anti-tank, I think similarly none. And that's it for the first turn. So obviously this is going to be the first viable attack. The way I envisage it is that if we can double up like this onto one unit, that's a sure thing. The other ones, where it's 1 against 1, it's more tentative. But again, I think it's going to be a 2-to-1, where this will be a 5-to-1. I'm guessing. Well, I guess right. I mean, it's not a blind guess, obviously, but I didn't think. So we've managed to push those back. So I was right. A 2-to-1 is going to be a sure thing. This should be a 2-to-1. Let's just see. Yeah, I was right again. And another DR. So the 1-to-1s are sort of 2-to-1. That's not bad. If we're really going to go for it, 2 of these against one of those in the hills. I mean, outside the hills, it's going to be. This is why this should knock that away. So here, we should be able to push these guys back, guaranteed 5 to 1. Yep. And here we are 2 to 1. We haven't had a failure yet, so see if we can keep the ball rolling. See, I said that because I knew that at some point our good fortune would fail, but it wasn't a terrible fail. But no, he's depressed 1 because it doesn't exchange, and he's depressed 1. So the exchange thing is now working. I don't know how long that other area was going on for, but it's a bit weird. So that's the position after the first turn. I think that's quite nice, really. Oops, end turn. Right, so that's where we are. So we can sort of see, you know, things being pushed in the right direction. I'm just trying to think of how we want to form this defensive structure. Now, these are not objectives, so possibly falling back to this sort of line and still hold there. Like that. Might be good. So what we've got are some obvious reinforcement areas. So these will be moving back this way. And they'll only be able to go 1 hex, so they'll be able to go into there. We'll be able to move to there. We'll be able to move to there. And hold there. Here, we can probably move him to there. And reinforce with some of this. I think with the motorised unit, bring the motorised unit down here. Now create a stack of 4, which means they're quite difficult to attack it. Now we're going to get 2 to 1. With these, we can reinforce the central area, I think. Obviously, they're only able to move 1 hex at a time, so there and there. And with the mechanised unit under there, bring him as far around here as we can to sort of try and reinforce whatever's coming across here. So we've got one motorised down here reinforcing this open space, and one mechanised up here reinforcing that space. So it sounds like a plan. Okay. Now, I don't have any artillery, but we don't necessarily see much of that. I mean, this isn't an offensive by the Saudi forces. This is a defensive manoeuvring. It's interesting, actually. I was watching one of those videos on the South Front, and they seem to always be hosted on YouTube, and you're constantly saying how YouTube are blocking their content, and then But it's always on YouTube, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense because it's obviously there. But they took some of these positions, and I think one of the videos was trying to report that the Houthi forces were humanitarian forces in the sense that they were helping the wounded. But what they actually did inadvertently was they captured some of the Houthis captured some of the Houthi forces, the Saudi-backed forces, on these hilltops. You just keep seeing these hilltops, these little sort of bunkers on top of the hills, and there's lots of rocks piled up and some sandbags, and obviously they get their little sort of plastic sheeting to make shelters, and they've got all their boxes of ammunition and bottles of water, and you see these positions after they've taken them. You don't see the people either. Sometimes you see dead people or parts of, blurred out pictures of dead people. And they captured these people that were injured, and they were sort of made a point of getting medical aid. And one of them had a pretty ganky leg, like he'd been hit quite a while before. It was all rotten. There was obviously a lot of pain, and that's the nature of war, really. It was quite important to look at that, to sort of consider that. But that's not what I'm trying to make at the moment. The point is that they look just like the Houthis in that they weren't uniformed Saudi forces. They weren't in uniforms. They were in the same sort of, casual attire as the Houthis are. You just whatever, jeans, t-shirts. I've often thought that the Houthi forces in defence were, proper fighting soldiers. But they're not, and I think that sort of possibly justifies or points to one of the reasons why the Houthis make as much ground as they do. Apparently they make as much ground as they do based on the reports and the videos. It's because they're just people like the Houthis, and they probably run away at the earliest opportunity. And they're probably sort of, told by who's in command of the Houthi forces to go and sit up on that hill. As soon as they get fired at, they probably run away. Because then it looks as though they're not really into it. And I don't want to say that the Houthis are sort of these brave warriors that are fearless and the Houthis are not, because I get the same feeling it's the same way around, but the other way around, that if you're on the offensive and you've got a lot of firepower, it's quite easy to sort of move forward. But they always seem to be sort of firing their guns, and it's not even just Yemen, it's Syria, Iraq, and Libya, and Afghanistan, everywhere. That they put their guns like over their heads and fire over the top of ridges, and you get the feeling they're not actually aiming at anything. But the strategy involves shooting blindly at an area, and the other person thinking, God, there's lots of bullets coming, and they run away. And similarly, it happens the other way around. Now, these are not fully trained fighting forces. This is just sort of kids playing. I don't want to insult anyone, so maybe I shouldn't say quite like that, but it's sort of, I often think about the way ducks and geese and other animals behave. They'll be wandering around and they'll get it up to chase another duck or a goose. And of course the other goose will just run away because there's this duck charging at it. It doesn't necessarily mean the other goose is weak, and the other goose will just sit there and then he'll maybe sort of think, hang on, and he'll just charge at the other goose, and the other goose will run away because geese are afraid of geese that are running at them. Ducks are afraid of ducks that are running at them. They hardly ever sort of stand their ground and actually sort of engage in mortal combat. So, it's a case of sort of, same with pigeons. Watch animals and they will charge at each other. And the one that's being charged will generally run away. And then they might come back and have a charge at the other one, and the other one will run away or fly away. So anyway, don't want to go off too much of a tangent, but I'm just sort of thinking these are like forces charging at these hills, and as such they're just running away. They're not sort of properly uniformed soldiers. It would appear from the soldiers that they captured. They quite often have identity cards, but I think quite often they're not necessarily military identity cards. They're more like their driving license or their library card or something. So that's that. So if we get back, so we've done their turn, move things around. So again, we're going to follow this same strategy, I think. So we're going to try and put pressure on that. We're going to take Safa Mountain. could have possibly moved him there, really. Okay. It's not a bad position to be. And that was the reinforcement, wasn't it, for the following up. Now this is going to be tougher. So now we've got this reinforcement here, we can sort of possibly allocate him down here, so we can manoeuvre our forces accordingly, like that. And move him there. And he's still not going to be in range, but he might be. And the anti-tank. So as everything moved, we can get two of these against that. But we can also fight that. And then we probably won't have the movement. We'll probably fight this, and then if he's got enough movement, then do an attack on that. But do we want to get that? Probably, because they might attack. Or is it going to be better to use two of these against that? So he's going to be worth 4, but not quite 4. He'll be worth 10, so that'll be a 2 to 1. And this will be a 5 to 1. The question is, will he attack? We could probably attack, maybe getting a 2 to 1 against one of these units, which we could probably afford to lose. So I'll probably do this attack here, on the grounds that that will retreat, and then he'll probably move these units back. They'll probably retreat normally, and we'll still continue to attack the next turn, plus suppression. Yeah, he can recover, possibly. Here, I'll probably go for this, and here it'd be sort of 2 to 1 against that. I think 2 is in range. That, no. So, I don't know what to do really. Let's push this guy back. And yeah, let's knock this guy out. So this is how I sort of envisage these things happening really, because they're sort of pushing these people up these little mountain peaks. I'm going to hold that line there, sort of hold him there. So this is the last attack, we want to do that at 2 to 1. I think so. Exchange. I was going to say, because last time we had all these great attacks that went through and everything was fine, and the last attack didn't. It was an exchange, and the same as this one was an exchange. Okay. Okay. So, do they want a counter attack here? It's interesting, really. Let's see. We're trying to push this line back this way, so if we move him there. Stuck. Let's move some connection going. It's sort of whirring like it's trying to connecting. And of course, it waits so long. I think it's back. I'm not sure. I don't know what it's doing now. And that's why I moved them and it was him. So he's going to there. So what do we want to do here? Hmm. No. It's going to recover. I think I'm going to attack one of the units. It might only be a 1-to-1, but we've got it's just motorized. I'm going to sit there and try and hold that. So this unit here can now move in, potentially support some of these units. We can move into that objective there. But we could push a counter-attack along this line here. I think defending this section here would be more important. Remove him. Okay. So if they're not going to move, we might be forced to attack. We could possibly bring in help from this unit around like that. Pushing that up to sort of 3-to-1. Why didn't you get their bonus? Possibly. Well, why didn't they get their bonus? They weren't above 5. That's bizarre. Okay, we can start looking at his back. It's frustrating me that, because I don't know why that happened. Probably going to be a reason. Okay, so we're knocking back this way. What? What are the ranges on these anti-tank units? Not enough. Okay. They're not even entrenched, are they? So they're three almost comparable. 3.6, when they got their bonus of 15. That's the surround. And we're even eliminating one of the units. So what was it about that? Motorised. Oh, he's motorised infantry. These are mechanised infantry. These are motorised infantry. Maybe it's because they're motorised. I mean, that shouldn't happen, but it could be that, you know, that gave them a sort of some sort of variant on that calculation that they couldn't get their bonus. I'll have to look into that. It's one of these sort of things that doesn't crop up much. So it's the same odds as that. Let's fire artillery. Now range. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that because I push for time. Half an hour on this. I'm sort of keen to maybe look into that effect against the motorised. Yeah. And I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.